Hello, my name is Alexandra Castro, and today my teammate Nina and I will be presenting to you our two management issues for our selected company, which is Nike. So, upon asking a variety of open ended questions, we were able to identify two different problems. One of them being that Nike is experiencing low organizational commitment. And this is because Nike is making its employees return to a fully in person work environment no later than May of 2022. The company is also providing little to no virtual/hybrid work opportunities, and this is making employees feel as if their job autonomy is being taken away. So, in order to collect data, we did two separate things. One of them being we conducted an anonymous survey where we received 5 responses. And for this survey, we used a Likert scale where employees would either strongly agree or strongly disagree with a statement. We also conducted two separate interviews with two current employees that are working at Nike's headquarters. So for problem one, we were able to realize that the majority of employees prefer a virtual/hybrid work style, whereas you can see in the chart above, 80% of employees that took this survey closely to strongly agreed with the statement, the majority of coworkers that I know of prefer working hybrid or remotely. We also found that employee commitment is being affected, where 60% of employees who took this survey strongly agreed with the statement. The lack of remote opportunities has affected how committed some employees are to Nike. When we conducted our interview, we were also able to take their responses into consideration when coming up with a solution, since when we interviewed Dylan Alexander, who is an associate merchant in men's global footwear, he stated that designers kind of have to be in person in order to feel and see the product. So we took this into consideration when coming up with our solution, since some departments are easier to be hybrid, whereas some, it is more convenient for them to be working in an in-person environment. So, what is our antecedent? Well, employees are unsatisfied with the low job autonomy caused by a lack of remote working opportunities now that Nike is planning to resume their in person work environment. So, what are the effects of this issue? Well, not only is organizational commitment being affected, but some employees are preferring to terminate their employment to go with companies that give them more variety of remote/hybrid work opportunities. And also, we are realizing that Nike is simply having an economic exchange with its employees since they feel no commitment towards the company rather than financial. So, what is our suggested solution? Well, when we interviewed Jenny, which is another employee working at headquarters, she told us everyone loves to go on campus since there's always events happening, to where she refers to Nike's headquarters when she says campus. So, we thought, how could we improve effective commitment employee-affected commitment towards Nike? Well, we thought about hosting a series of events once a month. Not only would this improve effective commitment, but it would also encourage team bonding, which is something that Nike heavily relies on to complete their tasks. So, what are the potential risks for this solution? Well, some employees might remain unsatisfied with still being fully in person. There might also be low attendance rates since employees are not required to attend, and employees must also plan around work obligations in order to attend. But now let's move on to problem two and what our solution is for this specific issue.
The second problem we are addressing is how frequent changes in management are damaging to organizational commitment and organizational culture. Lack of a unifying team leader diminishes team bonds and diminishes affective commitment. That lack of team bonds kind of goes against Nike's culture of being all about teamwork. If you go on the Nike mission statement page, you can see that they're committed to winning as a team, and those teams are empowered, diverse, and inclusive. Without those team bonds, that culture of teamwork almost seems hypocritical. And without that affective commitment, that leads to overall low organizational commitment. Affective commitment is the strongest type of organizational commitment because those emotional team bonds are what make people happy to stay and make them want to stay. Without that affective commitment, then you're left with continuance and normative commitment, which are forms of commitment but are not as strong as affective. So from the data here, this is a snippet of a survey we sent out to Nike HQ employees. Our findings are that all respondents were either neutral or did not like the changes implemented by new management. And in testimony from Jenny Lung, an HQ employee from Nike, she said that the new CEO, John Donahoe, he came onto the team in January of 2020. This led to frictional transition for about 6 to 9 months. And this led to major company restructuring. And when she joined the team in 2020 to 2021, the vice president of her department, which is global operations and technology, actually left. And that created a vacancy for a department and team leader for 9 months. So that turnover, that absence of a leader alongside being remote made it really hard to build community and hard to identify with Nike culture of emphasizing teamwork. So the antecedent of the issues with organizational culture and organizational commitment come from employees feeling less trust in management due to high turnover rates and company restructuring. The easiest way to empathize and identify with the organization is to identify and have rapport with your manager, since they're your closest liaison to upper management and the organization as a whole. What are the effects of this issue? As I said, that lack of a unifying team leader leads to low affective commitment, but it also leads to low team task performance and collaboration. This promotes inefficiency and low quality deliverables. And that discrepancy in affective commitment and team-oriented organizational culture will make employees not identify with the core values of the company and will make them rely on weaker forms of commitment. So how do we propose to resolve these issues? Well, on the teammate side, we can promote in-office team building, such as board games, scavenger hunts, and icebreakers. These are team-oriented activities that are fun. They're going to want employees to get engaged, and it helps employees get to know each other better, especially after being behind screens for so long. And it helps build an affective commitment that will ultimately lead into task performance and credibility, task-based trust in each other. On the management side, they can employ transformational leadership. There are 4 types. The first is idealized influence. So that's going to be role modeling, leading by example, engaging with teammates via charisma. The second type is inspirational motivation. So that's going to be motivating the teammates to accomplish team goals and look to the future. The third type is intellectual stimulation, which would be creative problem solving, brainstorming, and the last would be individualized consideration, such as coaching, development, and mentoring. These not only touch on building affective commitment, but will also help managers better support their teammates and lead to task performance and overall job satisfaction. So these ideas sound great on paper, but there are risks involved. For example, employees need to want to engage and increase affective commitment for this programming to work. If they're only there for normative or continuance reasons, then encouraging affective commitment won't work unless they want it to work. Also, these team building activities can encourage social distraction, such as chatting or talking about non-work related things during productivity hours, which can lead to misplaced affective commitment, such as going to work because you like the perks over the work. So going to work just because you want to engage in that team building and that socialization, but not so much for accomplishing team goals or doing the job that you're supposed to be doing while you're being productive. So even though there are risks, we have reasons for implementing these solutions. They do address the organizational overall issues. Despite there being minimal risks, the benefits mitigate the risks in this case. So for event hosting, that will increase affective commitment, improve team bonding, and we can play to our strengths since we know that pre-COVID, Nike did have a strong organizational culture of in-person on-campus events, and there was high engagement. So we can utilize that again since we're integrating back to in-person and bring back events that employees seem to enjoy before. And then for team building and transformational leadership, again, that will also touch on affective commitment to teammates and managers, especially with high turnover rates. It's important to reinforce that bond early. There will be greater motivation between individuals and ultimately the company as a whole, task performance on an individual and team level. And as you're building that affective commitment, you will get credibility and task-based trust in each other, which will make operations run smoothly and help with employees feeling that commitment and that desire to stay with the company for the company. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.